All right, today we're going to tackle something huge, a 6 month expert level roadmap to what's being called a master's certification in system engineering. If your goal is to be one of the top infrastructure architects out there, you're definitely in the right place. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first, let's do a little time travel. I want you to imagine the date is February 3rd, 2026. Now, this isn't just a random date. The source material picks this specific date to really create a sense of urgency, because on this day, Cisco has just rolled out a massive update to all its certifications. That makes this entire roadmap incredibly relevant. And that really brings us to the core question, right? The one that so many of us in tech are trying to figure out. In a market that is changing this fast, how do you actually become a top-tier infrastructure architect? What does that path even look like anymore? Before we get into the how, let's talk about the why. What's the payoff for all this hard work? Well, a pro with this kind of skill set can be looking at a salary of up to $145,000 a year. That's the target we're aiming for. So, the whole journey kicks off with what the source calls a new kind of master's certification. Now, don't think of a stuffy old university degree. This is a modern, super intense track called Full Stack Infrastructure, and it's designed to give you the exact skills that employers are desperate for right now. So let's really define our goal here. You're aiming to become a full-stack infrastructure professional. And what's so cool about this is that full stack literally means the whole stack. We're talking from the physical hardware, the cables and racks, all the way up through the operating systems, into the cloud, and then wrapping it all in the security that holds it together. And once you've completed this track, you're not just qualified, you're positioned for some of the best jobs in the entire industry. We're talking titles like systems engineer, cloud infrastructure architect, and the super respected role of site reliability engineer, or SRE. Okay, so how in the world do you build that kind of expertise? Well, this whole structure is built on 5 core pillars of knowledge. I want you to think of these as the absolute non-negotiable foundation for your entire 6-month journey. So let's break them down. First, you've got Microsoft Windows with a hybrid focus because, let's face it, that's what most corporations run. Next, you need deep Linux admin skills. That's the language of the cloud. Then there's the CCNA for networking. It's the gold standard. For the cloud itself, we're focusing on AWS Solutions Architect simply because it has the biggest market share. You're going to see it everywhere. And finally, you wrap all of that in a layer of cybersecurity. The key is to see these aren't just 5 separate topics. They're one interconnected skill set. Okay, let's get to the heart of it. This is the 6-month expert pace roadmap. We're going to go month by month and see exactly how you build these skills piece by piece, right from the ground up. Now, this visual really maps out our whole path. And remember that 2026 scenario we talked about? This roadmap is perfectly in sync with that brand new Cisco certification overhaul, which makes every single step we're about to take that much more valuable. We tick things off in month 1 by laying the absolute foundation, the networking core. And for that, our focus is the Cisco CCNA. And why do we start here, of all places? Well, the source puts it perfectly. You cannot build a cloud if you don't understand the plumbing. I mean, that just says it all, right? Networking is the plumbing that makes everything else, the cloud, the servers, everything, actually work. It's step 1 for a reason. Okay, let's build on that. In month 2, we move on to Linux mastery, and we're aiming for the skills you'd find in a Red Hat certified system administrator. Why? Because Linux, simply put, is the operating system that runs the cloud. And the key here is that we're talking about modern skills. Yeah, of course you need to know the command line and user permissions, but in 2026, mastery means you know containers like Podman or Docker, and, this is critical, you know automation with tools like Ansible for infrastructure as code. So for month 3, we pivot a little and tackle the corporate world with Microsoft Windows and hybrid identity, zeroing in on the AZ800 cert. This is all about managing those massive Active Directory environments that most companies have, and then building the bridge that connects them securely to the cloud. Month 4 is when we go all in on the AWS cloud, focusing on the solutions architect path. And this is where your whole mindset has to shift. You stop thinking about managing one server at a time, and you start thinking like an architect, building global infrastructure using all of AWS's different Lego brick services. Now, for month 5, cybersecurity. I want you to think of this as the hardening phase. We've built our network, we've set up our servers, we've architected our cloud. Now we lock it all down. We're looking at certs like the CCNA Cybersecurity or the Security Plus. And a really critical concept here is something called Zero Trust architecture. So what is that? Well, it's a security model that runs on one simple idea: never trust, always verify. It completely throws out the old idea of a safe internal network. Instead, it treats every single user and every device like a potential threat, which means you have to strictly verify identity and control access to every single resource, no matter where someone is logging in from. All right, we've made it to the final month. Month 6 isn't about learning more theory. No, this is all about getting your hands dirty. It's your capstone project, and it's designed to prove your skills by tying all 5 of those pillars together. The whole point of this project is integration. You're actually going to build a real hybrid environment. You'll set up a Windows server with Active Directory on-prem, connect it to a private cloud network in AWS, then you'll spin up a Linux web server in that cloud, and finally, you'll secure the entire setup using those zero trust principles we just talked about. This is where it all comes together. So why is this project so vital? This quote from the source makes it crystal clear. Getting certifications is great, but proof of skill is what actually gets you the job. This project, documented on your GitHub for everyone to see, becomes your proof. Okay, before we finish up, let's quickly go through 3 final, absolutely critical rules for success. If you really want to thrive in the 2026 market, you have to keep these in mind. First, don't ignore AI. You've got to learn how AI-assisted operations are being used to make troubleshooting faster and smarter. Second, and this is a big one, the mantra is lab or fail. Just reading about this stuff isn't enough. You have to do it. Hands-on practice is mandatory. And third, be smart. Focus on one certification at a time. If you try to study for AWS and CCNA at the same time, you're just going to burn out and get confused. So there you have it, the complete 6-month roadmap to becoming a full-stack infrastructure professional, all laid out for you. At this point, the question isn't what you need to do anymore. The only real question left is, when are you going to start building your proof?